2024 is here right now. Wolfpack, it is so good to see you all. Here are the biggest hits of the year for 2024. These games, oh my God, it was so hard to put this list together, and I am beyond excited to tell you about my top 5 board games of 2024. We're going full force and holding nothing back as always, starting with my number 5, Slay the Spire. Who would have thought that a cooperative game makes it onto Tim Chuon's top board game list of anywhere at all? Now, if you are familiar with my channel, you know that cooperative games typically don't make my list at all. I think the only cooperative game I know off the top of my head that has made it onto a list has been Oathsworn. But Slay the Spire is probably the first one that has made it specifically for being a co-op game. This is a dungeon crawler where you're trying to make it as far as you can for a total of 3 acts. Now, this is also a great solo game too, but if you're playing in a group of up to like 4 people, the first thing you're gonna do is pick and choose which direction that you wanna go. You can fight regular monsters, you can fight elite monsters, which are of course way harder to beat, but will give you better rewards. And you can also go to these question marks, which are some very different and unique randomized events. You can also go get treasure and gain relics that give you stronger abilities. And you can also go to a campfire to heal because you don't regain health every round. You're gonna keep whatever health that you have remaining after a fight. And you can also go there to upgrade cards. Lastly, this is a deck building game. So you can go to a merchant, which lets you buy more cards or take out cards from your deck. That right there is the heart and soul of this game because this is a deck builder, which just means that you're gonna be adding in cards or taking out cards to make your deck stronger. Now, what I love about Slay the Spire is that it gets to the fun right away. You are working together in order for you to defeat monsters and making sure that everyone stays alive, because as soon as one person dies, game's over. It has a very straightforward combat system with a lot of depth to it. Like ultimately, here's a monster's health, here are their abilities, sometimes they're randomized with a die, and then you respond to that by playing cards that give you different types of attacks. This system of playing as many cards as you can, but kind of holding on to 1 or 2 cards left because they may cost too much, honestly, that's where the dopamine kicks in, because it cuts you off right when you want to make bigger and bigger plays. And of course, as you get stronger, then you'll get access to those stronger abilities too. So having this very interesting system where you want to keep playing cards, but you also want to manage your resources well in order for you to play them sufficiently and have the timing correctly, alongside making sure that your attacks will hit the right monster at the right time before someone else dies. Now, eventually, as you make your way towards the end of these acts, you're gonna be facing very scary and intimidating bosses. Now, these bosses, they aren't so difficult in that you don't feel like you're hopeless. You do feel like you have a very strong chance to defeat them if you play out your cards very well. Overall, if you like fast-paced deck building games, if you want the experience of like a mini campaign game and having these mini dungeon crawler moments with your group and not having to commit from week to week like other like big campaign games, Slay the Spire is going to be such a good fit for you. Plus, if you're a solo player, this game has extremely high replayability, and it's definitely one that you want to keep trying to climb in order to reach Act 3. For us, we've only made it to the end of Act 2 before we wiped, and we haven't made it to Act 3 just yet, which for me gives us more incentive to try again. Now let's move on to number 4 and dial things up a bit. A thunderstorm. When there's a thunderstorm in scary movies, there's only one logical place to go. It has to be the creepiest and darkest mansion with no service and broken windows and absolutely nothing creepy about it at all. That right there is where we're gonna go right into. Number 4 is Terrorscape. If you align with my gaming taste, you are going to love Terrascape. So in this game, you have one killer and you have a group of survivors. Like, this doesn't have to be a semi-cooperative game, because this is one of the few games where the variant game modes actually are extremely fun, and I play with all three of those modes. In the first mode, all the survivors are working together, and there are two ways for you to exit the house. Either you're trying to fix a broken radio, and then once the radio is fixed, then you are waiting 5 turns in order for the police to come. And the other way you can all escape together is if you find the set of keys, and then everyone has to leave through either the secret passageway or the main door. That's the winning condition for the survivor group. For the killer, all they have to do is kill one survivor, and each survivor pretty much has 2 health. So once you damage them twice, they're dead and you win. Okay, the funniest mode, and you have to try this one. The funniest mode is called the separate ways mode. And here, you can leave the house on your own. So once you find a set of keys, boom, you're booking it and you leave everyone else behind. Just imagine how much uproar and suspicion that's gonna cause. And the last mode is where all the survivors can combine their forces, and they can even attack the killer too, and like kill the killer. So if you're playing as a survivor, on your turn, you get one thing and one thing only. And this right here is what keeps the pacing of the game up very high and on a steady high throughout the whole game. You can move, and there are secret passageways and walls and doors that you have to go around. You can use special actions like healing and sprinting. You can repair the radio, but then of course, that's gonna make some noise. And noise tells the killer on the other side of the screen, like physically on the other side of the screen, where you are. And you can also remove blocks that the killer is gonna put out, and remove fear, because once you have 3 fear, you're gonna make noise, and of course that's gonna tell the killer exactly where someone is. Now, if you are the killer, and there are a lot of killers to choose from, along with the survivors too, because each survivor has their own unique abilities, but the killers, they have their own asymmetric deck of cards. And their goal is to kill one person. But what's cool about the killer is that you level up as the game goes on. So the longer the survivors take, the stronger you get. I love Terrascape because it does such a good job at like putting you in this position where there's a mystery that lies before you. And no matter who you play as the killer or as the survivors, there's always going to be this suspicion. It really mimics what it feels like to be in a scary movie, but this time you have more control and authority over what you're doing. This is a great game for those that are looking for a thrill, and for people that want to introduce like a big board game experience to new board gamers, because it's very easy to learn. At the same time, it's going to pull in those experienced board gamers, because there's a lot of different decisions and like hefty choices that you have to make in order for you to make your way out of the mansion, or to be able to kill a survivor. If you like murder mysteries, if you like suspenseful and thrilling themes, if you want a game that's going to make a big impact on game night that plays a lot faster, this is going to be a great fit for your group. Now, what if you want a heavier board game experience? Well, the next 3 are all going to go towards that direction. And number 3, arts. Now, you are not gonna wanna miss the next couple games on my list, but before we do that, can you do me the biggest favor and take 2 seconds to hit subscribe down below? It would help me a ton to grow the Wolfpack even further. Would love to have you here and see more of these videos just like this. So Arcs is, for what it seems like from all of you on my past review for this, it seems like it's either a love it or hate it type of game, but I still stand by it because I absolutely love Arcs. Now, this truly feels like a space opera game where you are fighting for different winning conditions with every chapter or round in the game. The winning conditions change every round, so just because someone has the strongest fleet of ships one chapter, it doesn't mean that other people won't have those catch-up mechanics in place, because the game's gonna pivot to reward whoever has the most control of a certain area, for instance, instead for the next round. Now, in Arcs, you're gonna play 1 card. And if you're the leader, what you play determines how everyone else is gonna take their turn. And that's where the player interaction really coalesces here. Other players can then surpass you by playing the same suit with a higher number in order for them to take more actions, or they can copy what you did, or they can play any card in order to pivot, and maybe they wanna tax your city instead of battling like what you did. After you play a card, you take its action, and there are so many fun things you can do. You can build up your army of ships, or you can build up your city, or you can tax people. You can catapult your way across the galaxy and even influence agents in the court in order to fight and secure them. This game has a lot of elegant mechanics going for it. And I will say that combat also in Arcs is top tier. Because if you're the attacker, for each ship that you have, you get to choose the pool of dice that you're gonna have. So when you mix this creative combat system with changing winning conditions, along with this kind of dance that you have with trick taking and seeing who's the leader and whether you're gonna surpass them or pivot with them, when you take all those together, it makes this really fun, interactive player experience. And you're just asking a lot of these fun, interactive questions like, is it a good time now for me to catapult my way in order for me to attack that city? Or should I stay back with my forces and tax everyone here so I can gain some oil and some psionic? So if you're looking for a game that has a lot of layers to the decision making, if you want a game that kind of makes you get out of a very tough situation, and at the same time, it's like, when you win, it wasn't an easy win, or if you lose, it wasn't a loss where like, oh, this sucks, but more so like, I'm gonna get you back next turn. If you want all those kind of experiences along with a very cool and fun combat system, Arcs is gonna deliver that for sure. So I just hyped up 3 games in a row. And now the big question is, well, what can possibly be better than those 3 that I just talked about? What could deliver an even bigger experience and rank higher? Because ultimately, the big question is, which game would I rather play on game night, right? You had to pick one. Number 2 would be my choice for game night over all the others, of course. And that game is Black Rose Wars Rebirth. The world is destroyed and a new order of mages is upon us with only one mage destined to lead. Black Rose Wars is by far one of the best games that I played in 2024, and oh my god, this game is so good, bro. Okay, so this is it's a battle royale type of game where as soon as you open the gates, it is a full-on bloodbath. But it has a lot more going to it than just that, so let me explain. Now, this is a magical themed 1 to 5 player battle royale where whoever scores the most points by the end wins, but you do score the most points by killing other mages. Now, first is the Black Rose phase where important events are going to trigger. And I love the events in Black Rose Wars because it really keeps pushing everyone in different directions. Naturally, as wizards and as mages, we're going to want to have a giant pool of spells to choose from. So in the deck building part of this, we're going to pick and choose which schools of magic we want to specialize in. We get 4 cards to add to our deck, and we can split that any way we want. If you like experimenting with different schools of magic, if you like deck building games, this is it. This is the ultimate deck building wizard mage type game. So we had our events, we chose our spells. Now we're gonna choose to program our spells, and we can lay out defensive spells like protection spells on our tableau. We can choose all kinds of attack spells, we can have quick play spells, and you can even lay traps in order to predict other players' moves. Now after that, we go into your actual turn where you take a total of 2 actions per turn. You can do 2 physical actions like moving and exploring rooms to use their effects, or commanding creatures that you've summoned. You can also cast up to 4 spells. Now believe me, it keeps getting better. I know, because next is the evocation phase, and you're gonna have these pets or monsters that you end up summoning. They're gonna have their own phase, and you can use them to move and attack for you. Black Rose Wars Rebirth feels like an open world of character building because you do have very light asymmetric powers as different mages, but then you build out this asymmetry with your deck of cards. What I love about this game is that you're constantly mixing and matching, and there's this gray area in many parts of this game where you're making very heavy weighted decisions. But overall, if you enjoy creative games, if you like being able to experiment and mixing and matching different effects and having this mage embedded theme, Black Rose Wars Rebirth has to be on your watch list. If you think for 1 second that you know what my number 1 board game of 2024 is, I'm gonna invite you to think again because it may surprise you. And this is a game that I'm not just obsessed with, but it's a game that truly focuses on immediate fun, like Slay the Spire. It has that elegant card play and combat system like Arcs does. It also has this kind of really ramped up tension, just like Terrascape. And just like Black Rose Rebirth, it gives the player a lot of creative freedom and creative control to experiment with different abilities. and different effects to use them all together and see how this wonderful mix of mechanics kind of play together. I would be lying if the title of my number one game of 2024 doesn't cross my mind as an option to play when my friends and family ask me, what are we playing tonight? It crosses my mind at least like 3 to 5 times. At the same time, it's also my most played game of the year too, sitting at 24 times played across all player counts this year, from 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I just happened to declare it as my number one board game of all time as well. Okay, fine. Maybe you do know what it is. I was this close to like putting up Hello Kitty Monopoly or something just to mess with y'all. But anyways, I just wanted to get straight to the point. So Andromeda's Edge, my number one board game of all time that I declared this year. And also, of course, it has to be my number one board game of 2024, right? So what I've done in the past already for Andromeda's Edge is that I've already done a tutorial on it. I've already done extensive reviews on it. I've done gameplays on it. I've done so much content for this game. So if you're unfamiliar with this game, I'll leave a playlist down below and link this video here. Definitely watch those first and then come right back. Because in this video, I wanted to focus on kind of just like my raw personal experiences with it and like the reason why it outranked other games for me this year. I love games that are easy to learn and games where you can layer the experience as you're teaching, because this is the game where you want to have a teaching game first, where people are just playing as they go. And yes, it can be done, especially with Andromeda's Edge. Even though it's that heavy, it can be done, and that's what I do all the time actually to teach this game. Ultimately, you send a ship out or you bring them back. It has the dwelling's DNA in it, but it improves upon everything tenfold. And for me, the complexity in Andromeda lies in the crazy amount of depth and the crazy amount of strategy that is intertwined together once you add in more layers to that. So you're not just sending out a ship to one spot, you're sending out a ship to many different spots. And depending on where your ship goes, different things happen. On top of that, I love games where it really brings everyone around the table together. And this is a game where it makes everyone participate in the fight, because when you're battling in space, pretty much everyone has a chance to join that fight too, because the fights are far away enough where you don't have to get involved, but close enough where you can if you want to, because each ship has a specific range where you can join in on the fight. And that right there brings everyone together at the table. When I got to play this game with Devin and Jeremy and Jenna, like my heart was racing even before we started filming, because I was about to play a game I'm super, super passionate about with my friends who all have a hefty experience on board gaming, right? They played hundreds and hundreds of games. So being able to experience that on table was incredibly fun. Like I get to see how they absorb a heavy rule set and then take that information and just play it out onto a table. So you get to really see and immerse yourself into a world that builds out right in front of you. When I got to play with the designer Luke Laurie and Mark and Nicole over at Essen, which had thousands of people walking around us at a huge convention hall in Essen, like we still got to play that game in like an hour and a half-ish. And that was with a 4-player game of Andromeda. I've heard people say like, oh, this game takes 3 to 4 hours. Like, it doesn't have to. Like that was such a quick game, and yet it still delivered a crazy experience, and it was so much fun. Plus, playing with Luke, I felt like the inner kid in me came out, because I got to play the game and experience it again for the first time. Because even though I played at that point, I played like 18 times already, he still took me to school, right? Luke Laurie pretty much taught me the game all over again, because I'm like, I didn't even realize you can use the pirate's abilities like that. I didn't realize how much you need to explore the nebula to really exploit those resources and use them for other parts in your tableau. I was like right there with Luke, like neck and neck at the very front of the line. And then all of a sudden, Nicole comes out of nowhere and sweeps victory in front of me. It has those catch-up mechanics embedded into the game too. And Mark, we gotta play again, all right? We gotta get a rematch on that one. Andromeda's Edge is a game that always makes you wanna play because of like how many different factions there are for you to play with. It also has so many different modules and variations that you can include in the game. And then on top of that, you just get to the fun right away. Like turn 1, boom, I'm gonna send out a ship to collect some resources, then done. Turn 2, I'm gonna send my ship out to Maximus Field, collect some modules, add to my player station, go up on some tracks, gain some bonuses there. Then turn 3, I'll add in my 3rd ship in order to build another new ship, get an upgrade from the industry track, and then I'll have another ship to send out for a 4th turn, right? Turn 4 comes, I'll send out my heavy cruiser that I got from going up the industry track, and maybe I'll go fight a raider. Maybe I'll go fight another player and mess with them and play some tactics cards in order for me to gain the one that gives me an instant 6 that I had in my hand the entire time and lay some traps or something with some diplomacy cards. And then turn 5, I bring all my ships back and activate all the modules that I just got and all these interactions that I just gained in my player station. Like, I am not joking when I tell you now that I am obsessed with this game. Like, there's no way I can spit out these automatic turns in my head if I hadn't played this game so much. That's how much I love this game. Sure, the components in this game is blown out of proportion. Like, you have these crazy deluxified resources. Obviously, I love that too. But without that, you don't get to hook people onto the table. I'm not saying that games that don't have Deluxe resources, don't provide a cinematic experience, but I'm saying that this really adds to it too, because once I set this up on a table and my family friends come over and they see it, they're like, oh my God, what is this? Like, I wanna play, like, look at this crazy UFO. Look at this giant octopus, that's wild. You have levitating ships in space, what is this? I wanna play. And those are real, genuine questions that I get, and it makes me excited to teach this game. And then the best part is, as I'm teaching, you just see their faces light up as they start understanding the game and they start experiencing it for the first time. Overall, if you're looking for a game that's going to really set the stage for unforgettable game nights, if you want to have that cinematic experience in board gaming, if you want to see what it's like to play a top tier game, then Andromeda's Edge, my #1 board game of 2024, and currently my #1 board game of all time. From solo to 2, 3, 4, and 5 players, it is great across all of them. My favorite, it's hard for me to choose a favorite, but maybe if I had to pick one, it'd probably be 2 players still, because it's just super quick. But I wouldn't mind playing it at 3, 4, or 5, as long as everyone knows what they're doing and they take fast turns, because if they don't, then this game will drag on. That's a little tip for you there. But that's not specific to Andromeda, right? That's like for every game. As long as everyone knows what they're doing, turns pass by fast, and it makes the gameplay that much better. So overall, that is my top 5 list for 2024. I hope you all enjoyed that. Let me know down in the comments below which games you're planning to pick up, which ones that interest you the most. I would love to know, obviously, because I get a lot of recommendations for you all. Wolfpack, thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate you all a ton. Have a happy New Year's if this video comes out before New Year's. If not, have the best start to 2025. And I will see you all in the next one. See you later.